challenge will be, how do I tell this story and how do I get them hooked in 4 minutes? You could give the judges an idea of a little bit more sense of what the game is and how it is it, how it's more sticky than other things. So even if you have some screenshots or some way to give them a flavor of how that game is and how it's better than other games that you have. One of the questions you'll probably get is, what is the size of your market? So knowing how many schools there are in the US that you could be targeting with this app, put some numbers around that, how many students there are in the US. I think there's 50 million, for instance, and then parents on top of that, so you can make the number of people. Really get across the size of the market and the appetite for people's willingness to pay for it.
A quick question on just how large this market is. If you said there was about 18 million high school students, so what percentage of high school students own a smartphone? And when you pair that back and you take a look at it, is that really a large enough market for you to go and generate 99 cents plus $25? And does that really add up to a significant number for you guys?
I think that the judges, they will be, but they think that your target market is really valuable, so they want to hear about and find trends that help get at that. So I think that's why maybe focusing on the size of that market, and if there's any other kind of creative ideas around how you think you can monetize and leverage that market better than anybody else, then that's great, because really your competition is not just other cootie catcher apps. It's any app that like any game or any kind of thing that kids in that age group are using. How did you guys think about business model? Did you think there was two components that came out? One is just your revenue will be selling the app for $1, and it sounded like one of the incentives for why I should buy that app is because you're going to donate a percentage of the proceeds.
Why $25? Where did you come up with that price for the businesses or for the schools? Because that sounded kind of arbitrary.
And so in these transactions, how do you guys make money?
Maybe one thing to also that they may ask you about is, how do you plan to get it to go viral? Like, what's your marketing strategy around it? So if you're leveraging social networks or other types of sponsorships, or thinking about how do you get it to people to find out about it and to start using it.
So how do you plan to drive adoption among the high school students? Like, how are you going to get them to download the app and buy the app? You mentioned for driving adoption among users that you plan to use ads on top of taxi cabs. So I assume that type of advertising is pretty expensive for a company that's like a small, say for you guys, a small startup. So are there other ways you're going to acquire users aside from paid advertising, or maybe paid advertising that's not as expensive as like a print ad on a cab?
There's a lot of companies out here who want to associate themselves with environmentally friendly themes, and particularly connecting with this young market demographic that you guys are. So one thing you could even think about is, being even more creative about the business model, and could you develop special business partnerships with retailers in the area or other people. And as the more that you play the game and you earn points, the user who's bought the app could translate that into credits that they could use to spend at that store. Or, so maybe I think really thinking about how you tie the business model into an incentive for somebody to like play it over and over and over again. I think you could tell your story a little of what the problem was that you were trying to solve for and how you guys solved it. Tell that really quickly. And then focus on who your competitors are a little bit more. I think people will think that it feels like we're all used to using travel websites, but maybe there's not a lot of great apps or something like that. So I would make it, then very quickly go into who are your competitors, what other types of apps are out there, and if there aren't any, then that's interesting to know. And then I would be very, very clear about how you guys are different from what's already out there. How are you differentiating yourselves?
You mentioned you are offering something that's all-in-one, but if your competition ends up, seeing your success and they try and copy all your features, what will you do then?
And then they may also ask you about your exit strategy. So I would have in your pocket an idea of whether you think that your company will continue to make more and more apps, or if you think that that this app is going to be super successful and somebody will want to acquire it. So I think about kind of the bigger, and by exit strategy, how will the investors get their money back?
First off, we just want to say, wow, it's just been incredible seeing all the great presentations, just the creativity, the critical thinking, the focus.
I think we were particularly impressed with the way that you thought about marketing it, and I think the use cases that people would have. I think that's always a good sign when we start imagining the extensions that you could take with the product, and we'd be excited for you guys to build it. And so congratulations.
We like this group because there was a really strong focus on the users and the user experience in the app, and we like the focus of that. It seemed like there was a very clear use case, something that was very different from what we saw with the other apps. And we could also, kind of to what James said about Tag Deck, we could also see a lot of extensions happening to the core platform of this product. So the first place winner is IOU.